Hello, my name is Julie, and today I, a former theater kid, am going to be reading Wicked for the first time. So, I started doing theater when I was in high school. I started doing it freshman year. I did plays and I did some behind the scenes stuff, mostly stage managing. I discovered a love of musicals when I was in middle school. I want to say the third musical I ever saw was Wicked. I kind of forgot how much love I had for the show and its music until the new movie came out. And now that Wicked for Good is coming out in a couple of days, actually, I'm seeing it in several days. The movie is already out. I thought there's no better time for me to read Wicked by Gregory Maguire than now. I'm gonna give you more spoilers than I would in a normal vlog. I'm assuming that almost anybody who's watching this video has already seen Wicked in some capacity, so understands the structure and is wanting to see the differences between the book and the show. If there's anything that I think would really give away stuff that happened in the book, I will let you know ahead of time. So let me give you a quick background, some history on Wicked. So of course Wicked is based on the Wizard of Oz books and the movie. The first Wicked book was published in 1995. The thing that spurred Gregory Maguire to write this was the idea of what if the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good Witch were roommates in college. And he wrote this very dark political book. Then less than a decade later, it was turned into a family-friendly musical. I'm sitting different. I can't sit normally. That came out in only 2003. That wasn't even that long. It is massively popular with audiences. It is a blockbuster hit. I believe it is the fourth longest running show on Broadway. And then in 2005, Gregory Maguire releases Son of a Witch. And then in 2008, A Lion Among Men. And then in 2011, there was a fourth book. I think it's Return to Oz. There are then three more books that are following the main character from the fourth book in the series. So each of the books has a different character that we're following. In the first book, we're following Elphaba. In the second book, we're following her son. In the third book, we're following the Cowardly Lion. And in the fourth book, we're following Elphaba's granddaughter. And then that trilogy afterwards is also following her granddaughter. This year, he also came out with a prequel that is during Wicked that is Elfie. I knew that Wicked was a series. I had no idea that the sequels did not come until after the Wicked musical had come out and been a success. A thing to note is that while Wicked has always been popular with audiences, it hasn't really ever been popular with critics. And that is a conversation that has come up with the release of Wicked for Good. It is not being as well received as the first part is, and it is also pretty popular opinion that Act 1 of Wicked is just better than Act 2. So this movie that is supposed to be Act 2, but now it's 2 hours long. A lot of it stems from plot holes or plot lines that are just dropped, or things that just don't feel very realistic. They have said that they have fixed some of the things. I'm really curious what it has decided to change from Wicked. I know that this is actually one of the lowest rated books I own. Wicked has a 3.51 on Goodreads. I would assume the reason it is so low is because people are reading it based on a family-friendly musical and being like, this is not what I signed up for. Everyone that I've heard that has read this is like, this is not for children. Stop marketing it with the Broadway musical thing on the cover. But I would assume that were it not for the musical, that this would be more like a 3.7 or a 3.8 or something like that. But I've been working very hard this year to lower the number of series I'm in the middle of, so I am taking a risk by starting the series, but I genuinely never really had that many intentions to read the sequels. So unless I really love this, I'm probably just going to treat this as a standalone, as it was for a whole decade. And also for context, I have not read the Wizard of Oz books. I've never really had any intention of reading the Wizard of Oz books, so there are going to be some things I don't know from that perspective. I'm mostly just going to be talking about this in the musical. Also, I just want to shout out this really fun Barnes & Noble edition. My best friend Avina got this for me for, I think, Christmas last year. It's a bind-up of Wicked and Son of a Witch. They're both 400 pages. It's embossed and everything, and the back of it has the clock of the time dragon on it, which is something that is basically only nodded to in the show. Interested to see that it is so significant as to be put on the back. But without further ado, let's get reading. Oh well, I'm in the same location. Who cares? But I am 100 pages into Wicked, and honestly, I'm really liking it. I'm genuinely shocked how much I'm liking it. Like, obviously, I'm already a fan of the story and everything, and I am already used to the characters, so I'm getting into it easier, but like, I am surprised how much I'm enjoying this. The thing that stands out to me maybe is the prose. Like, I really like Gregory Maguire's writing. It feels like a original fairy tale, the sort of way that it is darkly written. Something that has surprised me so far is how little of this is written from Elphaba's perspective. It kind of reminds me of like The Vegetarian or Vanishing Birds, where it's like a multi-perspective book, but it is not told from the main character's perspective all or most of the time. It's not like a Gatsby thing where it's like one character is the POV character and one character is the main character. It's like it's floating. Like we're not really getting into the head of the person we're following, but we're seeing all these different people interact with Elphaba in different ways for the most part. I think there's a couple times that we're actually seeing from her. There's a distance there that I wasn't expecting from her. So I'm at 100 pages. So I finished the first part and I'm into the second part. The first part is about her childhood. It's actually about before she was born until she's about old enough to be able to say like a couple of words, and that's about it. We're staying in the Throp household, but we are still getting like the political machinations that are happening in this world. Like we're finding out about how all of the different areas of Oz hate each other. So if you're unfamiliar, Oz in the original books and in here is split into 4 different, I don't know if you want to call them counties, but in the north it's Gillikin, in the east it's Munchkin Land, the south is Quadling Country, and the west is Winky Country, as it's called in the books. It's called the Vinkus here. And we're finding out how much everybody freaking hates each other. And it feels like everybody thinks everybody else is uncivilized. Either that or there is clearly one ethnic group that is considered like the civilized people and everybody else has bought into it because like Elphaba's family, just like she is in the musical, they're in charge of Munchkin Land. But if you look at them, they don't look like the Munchkins at all. And that's because their family has like married into all of these Gillikin families so that they now appear more like Gillikins, but they are technically also Munchkins. So you can really tell like who's considered the top of the top. For reference, Glinda is a Gillikin. But we're also kind of seeing how like religion is shaping the family as their father's like an evangelist. There's all of these different like political things that are coming into the household. And like the mother doesn't stand for it. Like she wanted to get out of politics. And that's why she wanted a son, because it would pass through the maternal line so that her kids wouldn't have to be involved in politics. This is also going along with the lore of the original books, so I'm vaguely familiar with it. There's a little bit here and there that I know, but it's talking about Ozma and how she was there before the wizard. Like Elphaba was alive for that, and it also is portraying Ozma as like a line of different people instead of just a singular princess who was immortal, which I think is really interesting. And like maybe that's playing into like the propaganda thing of like it's propaganda that she was actually just one person. I don't know. Also, I mentioned before, her father's like this evangelist. He's like this almost like doomsday preacher for this thing called the unnamed god that says it's from another realm. I'm wondering if it's going to be a reveal that this god is actually like Christianity literally has been brought to Oz from somebody visiting from the other world. Like it predates the wizard, so it couldn't be the wizard. So maybe that eliminates that possibility. I know it's like a metaphor for that, but I'm wondering if it's literal. The Clock of the Time Dragon has showed up just very briefly, and the father is interacting with it as this like golden calf-like figure. It is a magical / mechanical like puppet show that's being brought around to the masses, and he's like preaching against it, and that's all we've seen of it so far. But another change off the bat that's really important is that Elphaba's mom does not actually have an affair that causes Elphaba to exist. She is actually drugged and assaulted. But then later she ends up having an affair, keeping the guy at home, and then the dad also likes him, and so they just have like this polycule of both of them sleeping with this man. Hey, as long as everybody's happy, I'm happy. It's also pretty much solidified that this guy is actually Nessa Rose's biological father. They weren't kidding when they call this book very adult, because wow, the amount of times that we are talking about sex in this book. But by far the most interesting part of the book so far has been Elphaba's birth and the reaction to her. I think it's really obvious that like the comparison they're trying to make is racism for Elphaba, is that like people are mean to her because of her appearance and they create like this narrative around her because of that. But that's also sort of the narrative with the animals. You could say that's maybe like xenophobia, but like they're from there. The animals are just as much from Oz as the people are. So it's not immigrants. Actually, when you're reading this book, the language that is used around Elphaba, I think that the vibe here is that Elphaba is not cis, or that she is a metaphor for people who are not cis. Because when she's born, they spend like half a page at least trying to figure out what her genitals are. They use an outdated term for intersex for a second, but they literally think she has both a penis and a vagina. And then they're like, no, she just has a penis. No, she just has a vagina. She's a girl. Later, when she gets to Shiz, there's been multiple references to her not being like fully comfortable with being a girl, or people not perceiving her as being a girl, which you could talk about how Black people are masculinized and like Asian people are feminized and that sort of thing. Like you could go that sort of route, but she says something along the lines of that she is more of a girl because she was forced to be rather than by her choice, which makes me feel like, you know, that could be a metaphor for her being intersex and like being told she's female at birth and having to go along with that, or that she's trans and doesn't feel like she actually aligns with that. But also, like, she does not line up with the ideas of femininity in this world to begin with. So maybe she just feels like an outcast, and it's that sort of gender stereotype that is holding her back, bringing her down, if you will. Also, she is not only born green, she's also born with sharp teeth. Her adult teeth are normal, but then she's also born with an allergy to water. In the musical, it is propaganda that she could actually melt. But in here, it's actually true that she has this aversion to water. So by now we've moved on to Shiz. We've met Buck, we've met Madame Morrible, and the first time we meet Glinda, she's actually on the train going to Shiz, and she sits across the way from Dr. Dillamond, and the train conductor is like, you need your papers because you're an animal, so you can't be going everywhere. And Dr. Dillamond just turns to Glinda and is like, look at what's happening to my people. Are you okay with that? And that just seems like a really direct way to ask a stranger if they're racist. Like, I don't know how that could possibly turn out okay for you. But Glinda obviously is not cool at the beginning of the book and kind of continues to not be cool. We're getting into like what the meat of the plot of the musical is at this 100-page mark. I know that this is going to diverge from the musical, but at this point, like, yes, the scene to scene is very different. Like, there's very few scenes that are the same, but the vibe is the same. Like, the story beats and what all the scenes mean are getting across the same thing. So I'm really interested to see how it is going to diverge more dramatically. Kind of obsessed with this so far, so hopefully the good vibes actually continue, because I'm worried with that divergence, or rather the musical diverges from it, whatever, doesn't matter, that it is going to not stay that way. I don't know. I hope this continues to be something I love.
Very quickly, Elphaba just made a comment about Galinda. It's one of the first times we've really heard her talk about her after they have been roommates for a significant amount of time. And she says to Bach that Galinda has a mind in her head, but that often she just turns it off. She's seen flickers of it, and Galinda can just choose to not think because she is so privileged, and Elphaba wishes that she had that privilege. And I'm just, love it.
Good morning. It is Thanksgiving, and my Thanksgiving just got canceled a couple of minutes ago. I'm low-key trying to get in on Austin's family Thanksgiving, but I don't want to stress out his mom, so I might just sneak some turkey later because I'm going over to his place tonight, because tomorrow morning we are going to see Wicked, and we're going to get the Chili's marks. If I don't have any obligations now today, I do now have more time to read Wicked, which is great, because yesterday I read very, very little. Yesterday was a very hectic day. Like, on top of like having to do the couple-hour drive to get home, my phone ended up dying on the way right when I was supposed to make my turn, so I ended up taking a wrong turn. I just didn't plug in my phone. I had a charger, but like, even when my phone's on low battery, usually my phone doesn't die on the way home. So I've literally never had this happen before, because it doesn't take that much battery. But my alarm went off, and plus I had it on Bluetooth doing my audiobook of Les Mis, which I've just realized I'm reading the books of two musicals I've enjoyed at the exact same time. Kind of weird. Oh my God. Thank God. Thank you, Austin. He just invited me to his Thanksgiving. Thank you. That's what I was trying to get you to do. I appreciate it. What was I saying? I took multiple exits and just got back on the road because it was so dark and there's no lighting on any of these exits. I knew exactly what the turn looked like, but I couldn't tell if it was the turn until I had already turned. And basically, I was like, okay, this is the route north. I know I need to go north. I'm not sure if this is the way I'm supposed to go. And I went, and I was actually able to successfully navigate myself. I ended up plugging my phone, and I got enough service to call people, but I didn't have enough service for my maps to come back up, which I thought was kind of weird. And I was able to call people to double check me. I knew what town I needed to then get to my hometown. So I was fine, and I would have been okay. It was just really aggravating when I'm saying, get me directions to this place. And it's like, we can't find your connection. And I was just a little bit road raging. I mean, I wasn't doing anything dangerous on the road, but I was raging and I was on the road. And I'm like, I can't hear about Marius right now. Okay. I can't hear about Marius's shitty grandfather right now. So I'm over the 200 page mark. I'm over halfway. Here are some revelations. The number one thing that shocked me is how close Bach and Elphaba are. Elphaba and Bach are actually pretty tight. And I think they talk about Elphaba and Glinda being roommates and how they don't always get along and everything. But like in the show, there's a whole song about it. In the book, it is there. It's not emphasized nearly as much, and we're seeing more other things. Elphaba is actually studying the natural sciences, and Glinda is studying sorcery. Also, Shiz is kind of gender segregated. The most acclaimed colleges at Shiz, girls are not allowed to be in. The very least, Fiero is in a class with Elphaba, so she's at least taking co-ed classes. This book is full of discrimination, and that's a lot of the point. There is a lot of racism. There's a lot of stuff about disability. There's stuff, you just look different, classism, sexism. This is a more realistic portrayal of the world, right? And like even characters that we follow like participate in those stereotypes. Elphaba is working for Dr. Dillamond, and she is trying to help him out with his research that is about the animals and the capital A animals. So in this world, we have animals that are talking and conscious, and there are regular animals, and that's a lowercase animal. Just like in the musical, the wizard is trying to do all these things to suppress them and try to revert them back to being animals. And we actually get some lore of some people trying to figure out how animals and humans came to be. Bach and Elphaba are working together to get some of this research done. And I thought it was really interesting. Honestly, Bach is one of the more dynamic characters, or like he's one of the characters who like actually has a developing relationship with people, because I think he's a little bit off-putting at first. You see him become friends with Elphaba. You see him wear Glinda down enough until she's okay being friends with him because he's in love with her. But there's actually a moment where he's like, you know what? Now that I'm friends with her and she's a little bit different and she's gone through some different experiences, I'm not like obsessed with her anymore, but I do like her as a friend. Like, that's cool. We get into part 3. Fiero is actually dark-skinned in some capacity. It is supposed to be more representative of being indigenous. The society is so mean in this book, and that's realistic. But literally the first description we get of Fiero's skin is one of their friends. He's not super important, but he's mean and racist, and he's the worst of them, and Elphaba likes him the least. But he literally describes Fiero as having skin the color of shit, which is awful. The book is not supporting that statement as an okay thing to say, but that's like wild to put it in there anyway. Like, I think that was a choice. Like, it's understood that this character is racist, but I just feel like you could say anything else. He is a Winky prince, like he is in the musical, but people don't like the Winkies. They are described as uncivilized. They have groups that are tribes. Eventually somebody's a chieftain. Fiero's actually looked down upon. He is not this Glinda figure. And even then, Glinda is not the highest status person here. When she is trying to get a roommate that's not Elphaba, she is actually trying to socially climb because she understands that she's in the middle of the pack and she's trying to get up. It's hitting the same ideas, but just different scenes. Like animals should be seen and not heard happens, but in a different way. The lion cub scene happens, but not in the same way. And a lot of the class is upset versus it's just a couple people. There's a lot of little things, but it's 100% in the spirit, except for the fact that it is way more adult. Between Act 1 and Act 2 of Wicked, there's a little bit of a time jump. I don't know how much it is off the top of my head. In the book, there is a 5-year time jump where Elphaba has been hiding out, and Fiyero comes and he's like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in forever. He finds out that she's doing some like vigilante revolutionary work where she's a piece in the machine trying to take down the wizard. She refuses to tell him anything that's going on, and the two of them start an affair because Fiyero is married. Fiyero has been married. His people are married at a very young age and then don't actually live together and act like they're married until they're older, but it's like an arranged marriage. It's like a betrothal thing, except they actually do the marriage ceremony early. And also, Bach is married to somebody else who we barely met. Glinda is married to someone who we've never met. It felt very much like a social connection thing and not someone she cares about. And so it's really interesting that all of these characters are a little bit more scattered to the winds and a little bit less connected in that section. So I'm going to be seeing the movie tomorrow. I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to get the book done before that, and that's just fine because like I know what happens in Wicked the Musical because I've seen it a lot. It's just a larger discussion than the musical has or can have. When you're making it 4 hours long, I'm sure you could have a little bit more of a discussion, but I think, John Chu did a good job for the most part. I mean, he stuck to the book. Sorry, he stuck to the book of the musical. If you're unfamiliar, the script of a musical, the storyline of a musical is called the book. And I see why that would be extremely confusing considering I'm talking about the actual physical book it's based on.
We've just had the Wicked margaritas.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how do we think about the Wicked margaritas?
Very good. Very tasty.
I had the Elphaba one, and he had the Glinda one, which they were out of the dragon fruit stuff, and they replaced it with watermelon. It was still very good.
It was in a hilariously large glass that was filled with a lot of ice.
It was probably that much liquid.
Yeah, it was a normal margarita amount served in a jumbo glass.
It was fun.
It was a good time.
I think yours was a little bit more like, I can have this with a meal.
Yeah,
And
yours was just like sour apple.
It's sour
candy.
apple right in the face.
Mhm.
And we had a triple dipper, which I've never had a triple dipper before, but this was a big deal. But okay, we've established I'm theater kid. I really liked Wicked. I saw it for the first time in like middle school, but Austin had not seen Wicked before at all. He was familiar with some of the music because they did it in band,
Yes.
but didn't know anything about it going in.
Yeah, the movie was first time seeing anything
Yes.
regarding it. So.
And you really liked a lot of like the orchestral direction and everything because it's the guy
Yeah.
who did,
I thought the score was really good.
because it's the guy who did How to Train Your Dragon, right?
I don't know if it was John Powell or not.
I thought it was.
It was really good either way.
I know you said you don't have any, but do you have any things that you're thinking are going to happen in part 2?
Jeff Goldblum is going to make a fool of himself somehow.
Sure. In terms of Jeff Goldblum, the actor, or the wizard is going to make a fool of
The
himself?
wizard is going to
Okay.
make a fool of himself. And there's going to be a lot of monkeys.
What was your favorite part of the first movie?
I thought obviously Defying Gravity was the strongest part for sure. But I thought the beginning was actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Getting to the academy.
60 or 70 pages, that's just her as a... It's actually following more her parents
Mm.
than her, because she's like only able to say a couple words at that point. It's kind of establishing a lot of stuff. Like Nessa's not even born in that section. We don't meet Nessa until she's fully a teenager. Also, in the book, I've literally not mentioned this, Nessa is not in a wheelchair. She doesn't have arms. I loved the first movie. There's so much I really liked about it. I think the casting of Cynthia and Ariana, I don't think really could have been topped. I think Ariana's really perfect for it. I don't care for this whole narrative of like, because she's a pop star, she can't be good at this role. She literally started in Broadway. She was in 13 when she was a teenager. She started her career on Broadway. I still, to this day, really am like, is Jeff Goldblum the best choice for a specific reason that you have not figured out yet? And we can talk about it after the movie. Michelle Yeoh, I feel like we could have picked someone who is a singer. And she also questioned her own casting because she's like, I can't sing. I really wanted to go into this movie not knowing anything, but like I'm anticipating, especially because of the reviews that are coming out, that this isn't going to be quite as good, but it's still going to be a good time. There's just big things that are coming that I'm excited for you to see, that I'm like, oh, it would be so fun if you guessed this, but you're not gonna guess it because I never would have guessed it the first time. I'm well into For Good in terms of the book. I'm at like page 275 of 400 right now. I wanted to be done with the book like 2 days ago. it's going on for a long time, and it's a lot of stuff that the movie just completely skips over, which is strange.
You're still in Munchkin Land.
We're in Winky Land.
Winky Land.
We're in Winky Country right now. We are still in Winky Country. She is hanging out with Fiero's wife, because Fiero is married to an entire other woman who is not in the movie at all, or the musical. And it's like, partly, what is she doing here for so long? There's a couple things that it feels like important, but it doesn't feel like this should be an entire act of the book. I'm just gonna have a good time. I like Wicked. Anyway.
Then remember, the sing-along is not out yet.
Let's go see it. Woohoo.
2 hours later.
Is it as good as regular Wicked? No. One thing I wanted to have you do, there are 2 songs that are original to the movie, and I wanted to see if you could guess which ones they were, because at least one of them, I thought it was really obvious that it had no place in the movie.
Was it the Glinda solo one in her wardrobe?
Absolutely. It felt so out of place. We were just saying the 2 seconds of things that we said since we walked out of the movie theaters, the pacing was a problem.
I watched the whole movie and am still confused about what they were trying to get across, I guess.
Yeah, the other one was the song when she's with the animals, No Place Like Home. That was new, and I actually thought that was good because it actually shows, it is a motivation for why Elphaba is still trying to do things, and that it emphasizes the whole animal plot with her, when in the stage show they kind of ignore the whole animal part. I could be wrong, but I feel like almost every time when the animals interrupt the wedding, that's new to the movie. When Glinda calls all the animals out at the end, I'm pretty sure that's new to the movie. I can't remember. They were like, okay, great. We can't drop the plot line on the animals like the musical does. Good. But here's my question. I understand why Glinda's changed by Elphaba. How is Elphaba changed by Glinda? What does Glinda add to this equation?
I mean, I guess that Elphaba had a friend for the first time.
Yeah, like she was shown kindness. But even then, it was not always kindness.
Yeah.
I think the person who's the kindest to her is Fiero. This really was like the Ariana Grande show. I can't remember how much more the musical is focused on her in the second act, but this one was like, okay, we need to make it about Glinda. Glinda's not supposed to be in Wonderful. What did she add to that song? Also, this movie is a lot of people telling other people to run.
Yeah.
They meet, you have to go. I don't want to go. Go. Somebody goes. I thought the sound was good. The performances were good in terms of like the singing. I love As Long As You're Mine. I love As Long As You're Mine. Michelle Yeoh should not
have been allowed to sing.
Michelle Yeoh can't carry a tune, and when she in Thank Goodness sang one line, I just looked at you and I was like, oh. I love and respect Michelle Yeoh so much. She did not convince me in this movie at all, and also she can't sing.
There were also, I mean, this is more of just a movie critique. There was a lot of lip syncing issues in the movie.
I did not notice that nearly as much in the first movie.
Yeah.
Because like the whole point of this is that all the singing was done live.
I don't know about that.
But here's the thing, they're not using the same thing.
I don't believe that. There was too much vocal compression where someone's mic had to be like a foot from their face.
You think so?
I think a lot of that was studio recorded for sure. I mean, that doesn't take away from anything. It was just more a couple, like, specifically Ariana's coming down the stairs and they're probably like 15 feet away from her or something, and it wasn't close.
I saw some people be like, I didn't think Jonathan Bailey and Cynthia Erivo had any chemistry, and I was like, I think Jonathan Bailey has chemistry with literally anybody he's in a room with.
I thought the whole love triangle really wasn't convincing, and that's not anyone's fault. And also, they just didn't spend enough time on it. They spent too much time on it and then didn't spend enough time on to resolve it.
I really like the part when Glinda wants to kiss him and he avoids it, and then later, like, he wants to kiss Elphaba and she avoids it. I thought that was a cute little nod.
15 seconds of shirtless, so.
Yeah. This movie has to do something a little bit different because the idea is that people haven't seen the previous movie directly before it, unlike in the show.
Yeah, I thought the whole first 45 minutes to an hour I was lost emotionally.
Oh.
Like, I was just kind of like, I don't really know what is supposed to be conveyed here. Either they should have cut down this into one movie, or they should have made 3, because they still didn't give enough time for things that probably should have had time.
Like what?
The entire second half of the movie. The entire first half was a rush montage of trying to, like, set the stakes up, and then the second half was just, like, knocking it down one after the other very quickly. I have a final thought,
Final
and
thought.
it's not to be rude to anybody that enjoys this movie.
Yeah.
I was getting big Wandaverse vibes from the Doctor Strange movie that came out like 2 years ago. Everything on screen, visually, performance-wise, sonically, the score is amazing, was great, and somehow the sum of its parts was less than everything going into it. For me, it didn't resonate nearly as much as the first one.
Okay, I do have to ask, were you surprised at all by the Tin Man?
I thought it was fun.
The Tin Man, and then the Scarecrow, and then the Wizard's her dad.
I'll be honest, I wasn't surprised because I didn't feel like there were stakes. The Tin Man was cool. I was like, oh, that's a fun idea. And then when like he was strung out over the post, I was like, oh, he's probably gonna be a straw man.
They crucified him.
I know, I saw that.
That's
I was
kinda
I was like,
crazy.
someone's mad about that, but the whole like Luke, I'm your father thing did not resonate. You're getting your ass sent away because you know you did a bad thing, and then Jeff Goldblum just kind of says nothing and then takes a plane and flies away.
He took a balloon. Young Jeff Goldblum was terrifying. The reason why I think Jeff Goldblum was such a bad... Like, I think he does a very good job at being this, like, scatterbrained con man.
Yeah.
I think he does a very good job performance-wise. But the thing is that in the opening song of the movie, when have a little drink, whatever, it's supposed to be a plot twist that Jeff Goldblum is the father. But you have one of the most iconic and most recognizable voices in Hollywood doing it. So if you listen back to it, it is so deeply obvious that it is Jeff Goldblum singing that line.
That's what you mentioned last year.
You listened to it and didn't pick up on it, even though you knew Jeff Goldblum was in the cast, so it doesn't matter. Also, I forgot that she, like, knows the monkey.
I don't remember the monkey or the lion at all.
You don't remember the lion?
No.
That's what, when the new teacher comes in, there's a caged lion that he brings in, and Elphaba and Fiyero come in and they take the lion and they free him, and they have a little moment, and then she sings Not That Girl. Because she falls in love with him because he goes with her to save the lion. But the monkey's less important, but the monkey is actually in the book. That, like, he's a little monkey that she has and is trying to teach how to speak.
Like, I appreciate how much effort, work, everything that went into making this. I just, for whatever reason, for me, it didn't come across, but most people in the theater seem to be having a really good time.
The things that I liked are things from the original, I think. The thing that I really liked that was a change about this movie is how much more emphasis they put on the animals.
And then the straw man needs to be a meme immediately. The close-up of his face needs to be a meme at this point.
Everyone was shitting so hard on the Scarecrow. I thought when they had the close-up on him, it was fine. But when they have the little bit where, like, they're still in the castle and it's focused on Elphaba and he's directly behind her, he looked messed up.
He went from this very rectangular, straight-jawed face to like a really wide face.
Well, he's supposed to be a Scarecrow.
I know,
And
I
also
just thought it
he's-
was funny.
And also he's supposed to be kind of ugly.
The score was ripping though. I don't know what they did, this and the first one, just the production quality of, because it definitely was a studio perform orchestra, like the
For
brass and each section was probably recorded individually, but the like matching and the master that they did for the soundtrack was awesome.
And it was the How to Train Your Dragon guy.
It was John Powell. It was very well done.
And I love whenever you hear a little reprise go underneath and like you can see what kind of themes that they're trying to put by the song that they put on there.
Was For Good at all in the first one?
No.
Because I knew that song. Maybe we played it in
That's
marching
very,
band.
very possible.
Like there might have been a For Good reprisal in Defying Gravity or something.
Thank you for taking me.
I think if I had to give like a out of 10 rating,
Yeah.
the first one I left like a pretty confident like 8.5 to 9, and this is like a 6. Can't put it below a 6. It's not a bad movie at all. I
Yeah.
just got lost. Everything about it's very well done. It's just fast. The plot is very fast.
Even though it's a 2-hour movie that's coming out of something that's supposed to be an hour long.
And I think the casting evens out to like a 6.5. The main people are phenomenal, and then there were just some really bad choices for other.
I think the 5 main people were correctly cast. I loved in the No One Mourns the Wicked reprise, the bit that Bach does. Really great performance from SpongeBob. Can't remember his name. Are him and Ariana still together? I have no idea. Oh, but also he looked like he was about 100 years old. In the first shot with him and Nessa and the lights coming through, you just see she looks like she doesn't have a pore on her face, and he's got 8,000 wrinkles. And I'm like, this is a child and this is an old man.
I thought the overall political undertones of it was on the face enough that it was comedic. Overall, I thought it was good.
The political themes of the musical is the same as the book. It's just not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Because they decide to take more focus on the personal relationships than the book does.
Yeah. I also thought, I'll be honest, the twist of her hiding under the thing was like, okay. I was already kind of over the movie at that point, so when she's like, I'm actually alive.
Well, the whole thing is that the water is propaganda that has been put out about her.
Mm-hmm.
So many things that they say about her are total propaganda, and so in order for her to be able to hide, she has to, for the first time, play into the propaganda.
They didn't repeat that enough. It was never in a way where it was confirmed that she wasn't.
When they are like, oh, they say that she can shed her skin. They say that the animals are hiding her. They say that water will melt her. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan Bailey takes her aside and is like, do they really believe that she could melt? That's ridiculous.
For just whatever reason, everything that was being set forth in the beginning of the movie, it went in and out.
You've now seen 2 musicals.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen maybe Happy Ending, and you've seen Wicked. Which one did you like better?
Maybe Happy Ending by a lot.
Okay.
I just can't stand people talking to each other in a singing tone when there's no music.
Okay.
That was just the one thing that happened a lot in this. Why are we singing at each other? You're looking each other in the eye, like you're right next to each other. But
it's okay.
I don't know.
Not everyone likes musicals, and that's fine. But I love musicals, so I liked it. It's fine. I had pacing issues with it, just like I had pacing issues with it. Okay, one last scene I want to bring up before we go. The scene when Fiero's got the gun, which, first of all, he points that gun so
Why do we have
shakily
magical guns?
Why do we have a magical gun? But the magical gun, he's pointing the magical gun at the wizard, and like he just stares at people for
his gun.
like 2 minutes. There's absolute silence as everyone's staring at each other, and they have these silent conversations. And I've said over and over again that I love a movie that knows when to shut up, but this movie and the last movie both had times where John Chu is like, okay, milk it for 2 more seconds, and 2 more seconds, and 2 more seconds, and it's like, you could have cut like 15 seconds ago. I do think it was bloated. I do think Girl in the Bubble was a waste of time.
Maybe Chili's put out the margarita so people would drink it before the movie and then
enjoy it
not
more.
critically.
Maybe so.
Or it had the opposite effect on me and I was not able to process what was going on. Maybe that's what happened.
Maybe that's what happened. Okay.
But
well,
it was a good time. Either way, both were still very good. Like the overall like score, I said the score was my favorite part of the first one, and I definitely sit by that for the second part.
Okay.
And it was great. It was a good time.
Okay, thank you for taking me. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna go finish Wicked now.
I had an emotionally rough day today, and that feels appropriate for how I felt about the end of Wicked. When I started reading this book, I was so in love with the writing and I was really getting into it. I didn't want to put it down. The further I went, the less that was the case. That has been the case with so many books that I've read this year that just I love the beginning and I hate the end. This book ran out of steam fast. It sets up so many promises and I feel like it doesn't pay off any of them. I mentioned before that Elphaba is not the perspective character for the majority of the book, and what ends up happening is we don't find out about a lot of what she's doing. When we're getting to see her at the very end of the book, she feels like really different and like nonsensical. It feels like she's kind of lost it a little bit. I don't understand why this book is 400 pages long considering how little happens in this book. If I haven't told you what the structure is, okay, part 1, baby. Part 2, shiz. Part 3, like beginning of Act 2. Part 4 does not exist in the musical. And Part 5 is where the Wizard of Oz begins. The thing that is really weird is how long of a time this book takes place over. I'm assuming that it lines up with maybe L. Frank Baum's like timeline of when the wizard got there to when Dorothy got there. But like, she didn't need to be that old, and there seem to be time skips for basically no reason. The reason to have a time skip in the middle is because Elphaba has a kid, and they want the kid to be a certain age. But Lear, the son, when I tell you he adds nothing to the story, not a thing. The critiques of the movie and the musical are that like plot things dropped and everything. And guess what? That's what the book feels like. Yes, it is more political. Elphaba is more singularly focused. It's less about the friendship between Glinda and Elphaba because freaking Glinda's barely in this book. Like, it's bad advertising to even put her on the cover of this book. It's even sometimes not even about Elphaba. Just nothing happens for a whole lot of time. There's moments here and there that felt really poignant and felt like the author really had something to say, and then it's just bogged down by Elphaba playing auntie to a bunch of misbehaving children. Like, what does that have to do with the rest of the fucking book? Nothing. The answer is nothing. Chapters of nothing happening. It was like I was reading an entirely different book at the end. And the ending of this book is so massively unsatisfying, and not in a like, oh, I want to find out more way. In a, I would definitely never pick up any of the sequels. Yes, the ending of this book is very different. 3 of our main characters end up in entirely different places than they do at the end of the movie and the musical. That was something I kind of knew going in, but it was really surprising to me that like the book couldn't find a way to be satisfying in the way that the musical does. But because the characters are changed from book to screen or book to stage, some of the things don't make as much sense. For example, as I mentioned before, Fiyero is an entirely different character in book to stage. Bach is basically the same. Glinda is like way less empathetic. She's not somebody who we're really tight with. Elphaba just feels like she's an old woman puttering about. She never loses her conviction, but she certainly loses her like steam to actually try doing something against the establishment. I'll tell you, what did I like about this book? At the beginning, I really liked the writing. I like the world building, and that just kind of went away. But it is more political, and it's way more realistic about how these types of people are treated. And this is where the basis of a lot of good things of the show come from, is wickedness shoved upon people, especially when they are considered enemies of a authoritarian government. But there were things that I really didn't like about the book. We continue to be super distant from Elphaba and therefore never get answers. It's slow. There are entire sections that feel like we are making zero progress in world building or character or plot or lore, nothing. And then it leaves off feeling very similarly. It has Elphaba like sticking to her guns to the end. It doesn't actually feel like she did anything better. In that second half, she's not nearly as interesting of a character, and there are a couple of major things that are changed from book to stage that I like way better that the stage adaptation does. I like that they decided to tie all of the characters into the Wizard of Oz narrative, and the number one thing, I've mentioned it before, the whole water thing being propaganda. I think that's great. And also, like, I have to wonder, like, now watching it as an adult, the whole scapegoat thing, like, I don't know how much it actually stands up under scrutiny. It doesn't make any sense that at the end of the movie, like, racism is just over because the Wicked Witch died. The Wicked Witch was fighting for racism to be over. But obviously, like, everything that she said was twisted by the establishment. But it doesn't make any sense because the establishment was upholding everything. The longer I think about the second act of Wicked, the less it makes sense. And it's because nothing is resolved in the book, so there's nothing for them to go off of. That's my thoughts. If you don't want to hear all of my list of things that the book does differently, you can head out now. Thanks for coming. But I'm going to now, full spoilers, give a list of things that happen in the book that don't happen in the adaptation. This isn't like a huge change thing, but like a moment that I really, really love, like one of my favorite moments in the whole book. Elphaba's like probably like 2 maximum, and she takes one of like Turtle Heart's glass blown balls, and she is looking into it, and she sees the wizard come down in the balloon. The section ends right there, and it's really dramatic. The grandfather is the eminent Throp, aka the governor, not the dad. So the mother is actually the ones that are the Throps. Dr. Dillamond is straight up murdered. Madame Morrible has this like little robot gadget that like goes around and is creepy or whatever, and she orders it to kill Dr. Dillamond. And this lady who is like the handler for Glinda, they have to have these women watching over them all the time because this school is so old-timey and doesn't trust women to be on their own. That woman ends up being the person to find Dr. Dillamond and essentially like goes crazy because of it, like has to be in a home until she dies. There's so much more animal death in this book, However, we don't actually feel like we get a lot of resolution, like I was saying with the animals. Like, yeah, Elphaba's just trying to figure out how animals exist. It doesn't feel like she's actually fighting for animal freedom. Elphaba and Nessa Rose have a younger brother who never shows up on page. His name is Shell, and he starts like inciting in Munchkin Land some rebellion forces. But nobody really takes him seriously in the family, and it was kind of confusing to me if he's actually doing good work or if he's just trying to be a troublemaker, because we only hear about him through Elphaba's family, who don't like people making trouble. But also, when Nessa Rose is the Eminent Throp, aka the governor, she ends up having Munchkin Land actually secede from Oz. Major thing, beyond her childhood, this book takes place over 17 years. Elphaba is actually the one that creates the flying monkeys, and she does it on purpose. So when she's doing all of this research, because she's just a scientist, she's not actually a wizard, or tries to teach monkeys, lowercase m monkeys, to talk. And she's like, yeah, I actually experimented and put wings on the monkeys, and they took to that better than to talking. And they actually like that. And I don't like that. I think that it's much better in the musical that the animals are being tortured, because what do you mean you sewed wings on a monkey and they liked it? They can't even consent. And the big thing is that nobody changes into anything else. Bach and Nessa Rose are never interested in each other. He is a Munchkin and is in Munchkin Land, but he's never involved with Nessa when she's the governor. Elphaba like runs into him like once or twice or whatever, and you think, oh, this is the part where he's going to become the Tin Man. But it turns out Dorothy has already walked away and she's already with the three goofballs. And it turns out that he's just a guy called Nick Cutter. He's an entirely different person. And if I'm not wrong, like that is the Tin Man's name in the original. I'm going to check that. I knew I recognized that name, and that's because he's a horror author. The Tin Woodman is called Nick Chopper in the Wizard of Oz books, but he's called Nick Cutter in this book, and he's an entirely separate character from Bach. And then Fiyero is full killed at the end of section 3, but we don't really know that 100% for sure. Like, bodies never given back to anything, and it's basically like they find him, and him and Elphaba's like love nest. Presumably the wizard's people kill him. At the very, very end of the book, when Dorothy and her pals are coming to see her, she only ever sees the Scarecrow from like a super duper distance, and she's like, oh my god, what if that's actually Fiyero? And she never actually meets him. Only Dorothy and the lion come up to the castle. Also, Dorothy like accidentally kills her. So like she has this crackpot theory, when she's already said a lot of weird and wild things already, that Fiyero must be the Scarecrow. But we never get confirmation of this, and it seems really, really far-fetched. And also, it doesn't thematically make a lot of sense for him to be the Scarecrow, unlike in the musical where he's supposed to be this brainless guy. It's just a theory, and she never figures it out because she literally dies like 20 minutes later. She gets set on fire accidentally, and Dorothy tries to put her out and throws a bucket of water on her, and she dies. After visiting Nessa, as she's the governor, Elphaba decides to visit Shiz, and she goes to see Madame Morrible because she wants to kill her, because when she was in, with this terrorist organization, she was trying to put out a hit on Madame Morrible. Presumably it fails because something goes wrong, and she decides she is going to kill Madame Morrible, and she shows up, and Madame Morrible is literally already dead. And she then goes around telling everyone that she just killed Madame Morrible. Also, Glinda and Fiyero are never a thing from Glinda's perspective, because Glinda is too racist to want to be with him. She's like, I could never be with someone who looks like that. Fiyero's family believes that he had an affair with Glinda because he wrote home that he really, really admired her. Also, she just wants the shoes out of jealousy because her father never cared about her, and he always cared about Nessa and always used child gloves on her and never actually cared to help Elphaba with anything. Nessa's like, you can have it when I'm dead. And Elphaba has this really cold line. She's like, I'll see you when I get those shoes. Editing Julie here with a couple of things that I forgot to mention in things that happened in the book that don't happen in the show. There is no Oz Dust Ballroom. However, there is Philosophy Club, which is a weird sex club that a lot of the people, that basically everybody but like Glinda, Elphaba, and Nessa, it's like all of the characters who aren't them end up going to Philosophy Club and going to see this weird sex show that I'm not really sure what the point of it was. Morrible, while they are at school, actively tries to enlist Nessa, Glinda, and Elphaba all together in the same room to be like spies set up by the wizard. Like each of you are going to go to a different quadrant and you are going to be like this powerful figure. We're going to prop you up and you are going to be doing things on behalf of the wizard. And lastly, one of the things that killed me the most is that Elphaba, pregnant with Fiero's baby, goes into basically a catatonic state when he dies, and then stays with nuns for several years until their son is old enough to be, he's like 7 or something like that. Those are my thoughts on Wicked. I have been talking about this one singular book for way, way, way too long, so I hope you got something out of this, and if you'd like to see me anywhere, you can find me at the links in the description. My readathon is going on. You can sign up late, you can read any book, and you can still join. Links in the description. And if you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have you around. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.